Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Inspired Action Life podcast. I'm your host, Karen Baldridge, and needless to say, I've stepped away yet again from this microphone, always sort of going quiet on you, not really knowing if this is the medium from which I should be using, but sometimes I just have a message that I just want to formulate. It's almost like it flows through me and just kind of prompts me to put it out. And so this is one of those days. So I'm just quickly hopping on here. Well, none of my episodes are ever quick per se, but I'm just popping on here to really talk about some of the things that have been marinating in my ecosystem here a little bit recently because there have just been so many massive changes since even the last time I have done one of these episodes that I almost don't even want to bother catching you up because there's too much to do. But all I can say is this is I know a lot of other people are feeling this like being in the middle of something, being like in what some people are calling like the liminal space, being sort of in the middle of not not feeling like you were living the life that you had before, but not quite installed into the new version of you that you've been working towards. Because a lot of us have been called to look inward because something is not feeling right. Something is just not sitting with complete ease and flow. There just seems to be things that we are feeling like loose ends that are left undone and or just and a discomfort in how life is currently playing out. And this can be in all different sections of your life. I mean, it can be in your relationships, always a big one, of course. Um, Family dynamics, of course, your career or business if you have one, um, just the world in general. And with the dawn of AI and how things are kind of going so fast and furiously towards that, the thing that I feel like is really discombobulating a lot of people is we are hurling towards a homogenous society where we're all going to, it feels like we're all going to be sort of the same and homogenous because we're all at different varying degrees using AI, and AI has these certain ways, like especially if you're using it for any kind of, using it to speak messages for you, whether it's emails or any kind of writing you might need to do, or, social media. There's certain hallmarks that always give it away that, yep, that's AI. And we're all starting to sound the same. And we're all starting to sound like these, little geniuses when all of us know that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that is AI that's polishing it up. That's especially hard for my little soul since I came from a copywriting background in public relations and copywriting and editing. So that's a big problem for me because writing was a real hallmark for me and a strength. And now with everybody being great writers because of AI, it sort of takes that off the table. So it sits in with the identity crisis a little bit with those of us who identified with being writers, but even if you didn't, it's the authenticity. We're losing authenticity. So it's kind of hard to know like what it is that who it is we should want to take advice from or who we want to follow or be inspired by. Or worse yet, we're not feeling inspired by anybody because it almost feels like open up a can of inspiration and whoop, there you go. Here's some inspiration. Compliments of Chat GPT. It's too robotic, and it loses that humanity behind it because, and I may even call this episode this, everything is energy. Like literally everything is energy, and your authenticity depends on you, not Chat GPT. So I kind of want to get into that a little bit of not only identifying that this could be part and parcel what's throwing people off these days, but also what do you do about that? How do you begin to change um, that narrative of who you are trying to become without it becoming like this this Teflon astroturf version that you're creating because chat GTP, I can't even say it, chat GPT is saying to be this or to do this, or you're following somebody who's basically putting out prompts from chat GPT. There really has to be a humanness behind it, an energy, because at the end of the day, if you put something that's not your words, the energy is not going to compute for you, shall we say. It's not going to land the way that you think it's going to land because everything about us, we are energetic beings. And this is especially interesting to me because as of the last few years, I have made it my mission to get very, very skilled and invested in the nuances and details of human design, not just the basics that many of us know, the strategy, authority. Oh, those are very important and very good. So I'm not playing those down by any means. But some of the substructure that they call it, that next level down of, who we really are at the gates level and the placements of the gates and a lot of the arrows, the determination arrows that you see at the top of your human design chart. Those of you who are on YouTube seeing this, you'll see right up here are these arrows. And those are of particular interest to me because they really, really, really dig in and tell you who you are at a DNA level. And you know what? It also really explains some of your lifetime struggles because it really gets into the weeds with why am I always fighting myself? Why am I always struggling with myself? Because a lot of us don't want to show our true selves. So we are happy to hide behind the chat GPT conditioned version of us when in fact that is not us at all. It is just a computer generated version of us, or it's the conditioned version of us that we are putting out there. And then we're wondering why we're not getting the outcomes we want or getting the traction that we want in our businesses or in our career or in our dating life or our relationships. And so I'm going to this is kind of a complicated conversation, but I'm going to try to boil it down to the lowest common denominator so that it can make sense on some level for you today so that you can understand not only what authenticity actually looks like for you and why it matters. Because it matters because when you are walking, talking, and being in the most authentic version of yourself, that is when you are most magnetic and able to pull in the things that you want to into your field. Again, whether that's a relationship, whether that is a career change, a business, a friend situation, or a vacation, anything, literally anything. But it really starts with getting authentic with who you actually are. And I could go into several different rabbit holes. And again, those of you who can see this on YouTube, I'm not going to make it all about this, but just for reference, on your human design chart, you will see that there's like open centers here, some that are colored in and some that are open. And in those open centers, that is where a lot of that conditioning and those false fronts or the false self starts to really take hold at a young age because you're more open and vulnerable in those areas because they are not fortified. I always kind of say it like there's no locks on the doors there, or in some cases, there's no doors at all. So anybody's energy, anybody's influence, anybody's directions and directives can take hold of you and you can embody them as if they are true, as if they are your truth, when in fact they never really were. It was just somebody influencing you and putting their influence upon you, especially when you're a little kid, because you don't know. I mean, you don't know. Yeah, adults are always right. Adults are always doing the correct thing. And so you tend to believe what the adults in your life tell you, or you believe what they believe because they wouldn't lead you astray, right? And most of the time, they're not trying to lead you astray, but there is sometimes some misalignment for who you are actually designed to be. You're not supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Like, an easy, low-hanging fruit one is everyone has to go to college if you want to succeed. Well, I bought into that, of course, um, and I saw evidence around me that, hey, yeah, if I want to like get out of my family dynamic and get out of the circle that my family, yeah, I better go to college or else, I'm going to live a life that there was something in me that said, nah, you don't want the life that you have. I want something bigger. I want something more. I want something that feels a little more, makes me feel alive and interested and inspired and whatever. And I just wasn't finding that in my living environment. So I didn't know what it was or how to get it, of course. But I thought, well, the gateway is college for me because once I started to get into that age group where I could choose whether or not I wanted to go to college, that became more of a mainstream thing that now when I graduated, most all of us were really highly entertaining college. Whereas maybe the even 10 years before me, that was not the case. Like a lot of my sisters did not go to college because it almost wasn't as prevalent or as oh, this is what you need to do. But by the time I got into high school, yeah, it was like, yeah, if you want something better, then you got to go to college. Again, makes logical sense. But now I think the pendulum is swinging back the other way, going, no, you don't have to go to college. If you want to specialize, if there is something that you're trying to create or specialize in something that maybe can't be taught in college, whatever it is, maybe people want to get into real estate investment and really learn that. Well, technically, you don't need a college degree for that. You need the edge, you need that hunger, you need that drive. And I'm just using that as a possible example. There's a million examples, and I'm not trying to use that as the standard bearer. I'm just saying that there's a lot of different ways you can go other than going to college. And now more people are opening their eyes to that. So there's certain assumed norms that really you get to this point in your life where you start to question all the assumed norms, right? Now, now add in the fact that not only inside you are doing all of the things that you think you're supposed to do because you were conditioned to go, oh yeah, we grow up, we get married, we, have a family, and we do all the things that are normal or expected are the expected norms of our environment. But some of us step outside the line and go, okay, well, I don't want to stay here, like I don't want to do it how you did it. So, we might push back a little bit. And that's what, all of our stories start in different places. That, was possibly one of the first ways I bucked the system back then, whatever. Um, it was a small way, but it was something that I wanted to do differently. Did I know it would work out? No. Did I have any idea how I was going to fund that? No, I didn't. But there was something in me that believed that one way or the other, it was just going to work out. I just knew it because I wanted it to. So I was following my like authentic gut feeling, right? Because there was no safety net, there was no promise of, oh, we'll pay for that college tuition bill when it comes in, we'll help pay for your apartment, we'll help pay for your food. Nope, 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 and nope. None of that was offered to me. Zero, goose egg. But there was something in me that believed one way or the other, I'm getting this paid for. I'm going to do it. I must do that. If I want to break out into this next level, this is something I have to do even without a safety net. It simply has to happen. So that was one of my first bold moves. And I know a lot of you, as you look back in your life, you can look where you bucked the system and you made some bold moves that would have ultimately changed the course of your life. Now, those are some of the bigger things. But here's where this conversation I want to steer it to, because what I want to talk about is more of the nuance things that we're getting talked into. We are, AI is generating so much fake stuff, and already the news was like almost 100% fake all the time anyway. And so now it's even worse because now we've got fake images to go along with the fake stories and fake gurus and just everything is just a lot, and not everybody is, and I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we've all lived through a decent amount of, very contrary news that felt contrary to what you're seeing. Like you're seeing one thing and your eyes are seeing and telling you, okay, you're seeing this, so this is accurate, but then the news is telling you the exact opposite story. based on no pictures or no evidence. And so, what does a person do? What do you do when you are faced with so many competing stories, so much contention in your life and competing narratives going on? There has to be a way to be able to sort out all the AI stuff, all of the fake influence that is trying to take over in your life. How do you do it? Well, I'm here to tell you that the one biggest thing that I could share with you is the introduction a couple years ago, and it felt so aligned, and I was drawn to it like a moth to the flame of human design. And I was just introduced to it as a tool, like a icebreaker tool type of thing. Somebody introduced it at a business meeting, like a mastermind type of meeting I was at. And we all took the test and blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was interesting. And some of the things that I read, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that seems accurate for me. So, anyway, that's sort of how it started the whole trajectory of me really pursuing that. But it was more about trying to figure myself out. Because here's the deal. I went all of the traditional ways, and I know a lot of you have and done all of the things that I was supposed to do. So, why was I having almost like a war inside of me? And why did it seem like the same problems would show up again and again and again and again and again? And literally, just like clockwork, every few months, boom, here comes the same problem coming over and over and over again. But then I would look around at other people and notice, like, huh, they don't seem to be having any of this chaos in their life. So why is it that I've got this chaos and they have what to my eyes was no chaos? But I have come to find out that that is in fact never true. There is always repeating patterns in people's lives. And guess what? It shows itself on your human design chart. And I have done so much research and gotten so skilled at this that now it's almost like something that pops out at me immediately. I can look at people's charts and start to see the inner conflict of things that are happening in their life without me even knowing them. My favorite thing, in fact, is doing human design readings for people I don't know because I don't want to know anything about your background. I don't want you to think that, oh, I'm just kind of riffing off of something I know about you, because I don't know you at all. So all I know is what I see on this paper. And so I simply just start to read things off the paper. And it matters like which ways the arrows are pointing. That tells me your decision making. Like maybe hiccups, the lifelong issues you have with standing firmly and confident in your decisions and really feeling like, oh, this is the right decision and I can't prove it. And it looks crazy on paper, but I'm doing it. That type of energy. I can kind of see where some of those issues will creep up in your life. I can also look down and see some of your biggest, probably, core wounds, like I was saying, like the conflict thing that was following me around constantly, or your biggest gifts, or your biggest learning journey opportunities. Because as you well know, what was this? What is the blah, blah, blah. There's a favorite quote that I came upon that I just love. Um, a calm sea never made a skilled sailor. And I love that. So simple, yet so profound. Because had we never been pressured or pressed or pushed up against the wall, we would have never made some of the pivots in our lives that we did, right? Like we would have never done the things that we have decided to do. We wouldn't have done them because we would have been just staying in our comfort zone because our brains and our bodies like to keep us safe. So we would rather take the devil that we do know versus the devil that we don't know. Think once again, me back in high school making that decision of going to college. My family didn't have any reasonable way to support me going to college. There was no reasonable way that that was going to work out. And there was nobody else in my family who had done it. So this was me breaking a cycle, but I had nothing on paper that would prove that I'll be all right doing this, or I'll be safe doing this, or this won't be a complete disaster. I had no promises, zero. In fact, I had everything against me, but I still did it because there was a gut knowing in me that I'm freaking doing this. Like, I feel pulled to do this. I feel pulled to leave this city. I feel pulled to chase greener pastures. And even against all odds, I had to do it. And I know every one of you has had a moment like that where you have just known that you've known that you've known, but everyone around you says that's impossible. How are you going to do that? How are you going to afford this? How are you going to pay for it? And you get all of the questions because you can't prove anything on paper. It looks like lunacy, but your soul says, yes, yes, go. Oh, you're doing this. You are doing this. So that is a little taste of what making soul aligned decisions looks like and feels like for you. So if you can go back and revisit the energetics and kind of re-engineer that situation of what it felt like when you had a hell yes deep inside of you. That's one way that some of us know there's just a hell yes, even though it goes against all odds. um, there's, certain cues that our body gives us when we are getting green lighted to go do something that we want to do. Now, if we can be more intentional about listening to that hell yes and trusting that hell yes and identifying what does hell yes look like for my body? Because guess what? According to human design, there's lots of different ways our bodies are built to talk to us. So if you're a generator, like I am in human design, I'm a sacral generator. So I do get that, oh, that gut punch, that hell yes. Like I'll have a full body feeling that yes, this is the way to go, even though it it seems risky. And what I have learned is listening not only to that full body hell yes, but the risk is the way. The problem is the way. I, I mean, I'm telling you, almost every time, the very thing that seems scary, impossible, or seems like it could be a catastrophe, so many times, that seems to be the right way to go. Now, that may not always be the case, across the board. And I'm not going to be out here telling you that. And then if you're in the dating world, you go and date toxic people and all the things. I'm just saying when you're making, like, a lot of times we are getting, should I, invest in this course? Should I invest in this house? Should I invest in this business? Should I invest in whatever? And you don't always feel like you know the answer. But I am telling you, there is a way to understand how your body processes information and makes decision and speaks to you. And the biggest cheat code ever is find the best decision that you ever made that seemed crazy at the time. Go back and re-engineer that moment and decide, how did this all come about? How did I make this decision? Why did I think this was okay? And begin to understand the embodiment of what the feeling is. Because when we put our brains in charge of our lives, our brains lie to us 24/7. They are the monkey minds. They are here to keep us safe. Like I said, they want us to choose the known problem versus the unknown problem, the devil that we know versus the devil that we don't know. But this is where our human design and God and his divine design comes in, because he will constantly send chaos or in whatever form is kind of shown in your chart. For mine comes wrapped up in emotional turbulence. Okay, so like I have one of the gates in the human design that is one of the most turbulent gates there, and emotional turbulence, meaning like in relationships. And it's like storm after storm after storm. Like, this doesn't even make sense. What in God's name is going on? And so I would react, even until like 2 and 3 years ago. I would react and still get pissed something every time something nuts would happen. I would be so taken off guard, like, haven't we talked about this? Is this freaking going on again? And I was still mystified by it. And then it's like I woke up, like suddenly I started to ask different questions. Like, now, wait a minute. let me look at this a little bit closer because it seems like whenever I do this or I'm about ready to get this next level or get this next thing, chaos hits. There's always some sort of chaos. And it's irrational, it's unreasonable, it's nuts. It's like nothing I ever did to bring it to me because I'm usually a chill, laid back, way probably too laid back, which is why God has to send me chaos all the time because I'm too laid back. And and it'll be something that I never, ever would have brought on to just, to cause myself drama. But I will somehow get projected upon, like some silly, stupid drama will then project upon me, and then it'll take on a life of its own. Before I know it, it's spiraling out of control. It's 1000% fake, and I had nothing to do with it other than I'm going like, oh my God, I'm like caught up in this insanity that has nothing to even do with anything that I've done, but yet it'll get projected upon me. But that's part of the state. And it's also part of those arrows that are at the top of my chart because my arrows would point to the fact that when I start making too many big moves, I am not learning to receive because I'm acting out of um, lack of faith and scarcity, and I'm not acting out of faith at all. Like basically, excuse me, I'm trying to make things happen through the energy of desperation. And so everything is energy, like I said. Excuse me. And when this is one of the things that I'm battling right now is a cold, which excuse me, this is nuts. So, okay, I'm back. See, so silly. I'm starting to make a point and some other chaos happens. But anyway, I'm finding that, again, once I get to a new level, it's like new devils, new level, new devil. So that's one of my patterns. It's like I've got a couple different patterns when it comes to calling in and making changes in my life. And so these are the little monsters that hide in my closet. But each of you has a version of my monster. You have a monster that hides in your closet too, but it comes wrapped in different costumes. Yours might be physical and like constant physical problems, issues, sicknesses, illnesses. I've seen others be existential, fighting in your own, warring in your own mind. Like, what is life even? What is the meaning of life? Is it even worth it? Like, you have these existential crises that you have to work throughout your life. But I can see the awesome thing about it is I can see it on your chart. So I can take the monster's teeth out a little bit. So you don't have to be so shocked that the monster's back again because even though you didn't do anything to wake up the monster says, hey, it's about 3 o'clock right now in the middle of the night, and I need to come out and scare the shit out of you right now. So here I come, But if you know that he's coming at 3 o'clock, you will no longer be like so taken off guard, and you will start going, I wonder what he wants this time. I must be getting ready to graduate into something because this is a test. I'm being tested, right? So that is such a awesome and juicy reframe of life and of your problems. It's like I could kick myself for not knowing this earlier. I'm so disappointed that I did not know this earlier because it is so good that I wish I would have known this. But now that I do know this, I mean every one of my appointments now we get down and dirty going, okay, what are all those monsters in your closet? And we can begin to look a little bit because it makes more sense when you can logically understand the constant barrage of problems that you have. And some of them might just be confidence issues, like never believing or like having trouble believing anybody, like being incredulous and never trusting anybody or never believing that something's going to work out. You have a fear of failure, and that'll show up very clearly in your chart, and that'll be your Achilles heel. But each of us has something, but once we recognize it, then we are in the driver's seat because our nervous system gets so dysregulated when that monster pops out of our closet that we get hypervigilant, right? And that's a lot of times what is the problem with our lives. You know, you hear so much about nervous system regulation and having to, regulate your cortisol and lower your cortisol and all of this stuff. But really it comes down to this is understanding what is the thing that has been tormenting you most of your life, and at least understanding it to begin with on an intellectual level. And so that's like thing number one is understanding it on an intellectual level, and then going through the process of starting to look over the totality, the tapestry of your life and go, okay, I see all the places that I can recall, even in meditation and other kinds of prayer that you can do. You can begin to unpack it and get that storyline out of your body. That's why it's so important when they talk about somatic healing and nervous system regulation, because that story lives on in your body. Like your brain might be able to do it. So, like with coaching and stuff, they tell us all these great tactics to and strategies to compartmentalize, things when people do things so that you don't react harshly when somebody says something that's annoying to you or not productive for a meeting. You learn how to, reframe the conversation, but internally you're still like freaking like, oh my God, you are still inside doing that. But the real trick is getting your body detached from that monster who comes out and haunts you. You know, being learning it so well, learning its every move that that monster no longer has the whole sway over you, and you can detach from that monster and be able to start to create some momentum going forward because you're going, I see what's going on. This is just a test. I'm freaking moving forward. I do not care if you're trying to test me. La 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 la. I'm not going to let the old version of me respond to this. It's the new version. You're getting the new me who sits there and stares at you steely eyed, like, mm-hmm. Is that your best shot? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's nothing. You're not getting me this time. And so it's like that kind of energy, a little swag, a little sass. And so getting and so understanding it, then getting it unprogrammed from your system is like part number two. And then also in the meantime is understanding what your core values are, or I call them your authentic pillars for inspired living or your authentic life. What is it that you want? Because when you start an exercise, I have an exercise that really is really effective in helping understand how that whole thing works or how to really get clear on what it is that you want. And I think the easiest way to understand it is what do you want to feel in your life? Like, what is it that you want to feel? Because when you start naming things like, I want a brand new beach house and I want $1 million whatever, um, that is good and that isn't a desire, but it's not a core value towards what you are working at. So, like for me, my number one is peace. Because what did I say? If I don't have peace, I'm not able to effectively, if we want to say the word, the M word, manifest what it is that I want, or call in, or believe and talk to God and believe that I can receive it because I'm still doubting Him. Why? Because I'm hyper vigilant and waiting for the next shoe to right? And then this is like the next shoe that's about to drop. And I'm too busy worrying, like, oh God, when's that next punch coming? But now the new me already knows that the next punch is coming. And I'm not out here trying to stop it. I'm going, what do I learn from this? Because that just means good news. I've got something else that I'm about ready to catapult into. So be happy when all of these problems start to come, because that means that you are, getting your bell rung so that you can wake up and go, hey, I got this thing I'm trying to give you, but you are not clearing energetic space for me. You are not clearing space for me. So that's why, to me, once I was doing all these exercises to get my four pillars, peace had to be number one because peace is the skeleton key that unlocks every other door to everything else that I want, right? Peace is the key. That is number one. And for the record, because this episode is getting long, the rest of mine are freedom, security, inspiration. I would put sometimes maybe under inspiration, self-care or security. I might put under self-care as a subcategory because I am very, very always interested and invested in holistic wellness. And I don't want to have to be made to feel bad for, buying supplements or buying healthy foods or organic things that mean something to me because they make my body noticeably feel better than bringing in junk and then going, why do I feel like crap? Like I noticeably feel better when I am intentionally treating my body like the temple that it is. So I don't want to have to be shamed for that. I want to call in the ability to always be able to do those things. And I'm not talking like all the cosmetic beauty treatments, although some of those are on the list as well. And I'm not going to apologize for some of them, but they aren't like a cornerstone for me. Um, I just want a healthy body, a healthy life. I actually want peace so it can be simple, so I can live freely, kind of float around the prairie with, beautiful things that I see, beautiful nature around me, very luxurious things that I have picked out, but not a lot of them, just luxurious items, maybe good hair products, pots and pans, maybe a nice bag. I like nice cars, but then I want just simplicity. I don't want a lot of anything. I don't like a lot of things. I don't like hoarding things. I like to streamline everything, but just have it be well appointed. That means something to me. It makes me feel inspired. And what happens when I'm inspired is I feel peaceful. And once I feel peaceful, I am able to call in more things that I want. Does that make sense? So it's like reverse engineering all of the things that you have got and figuring out your own energetic patterns. And so there's all of these steps that I just listed, and I'll put them in the notes here so you can kind of start the process yourself. But yeah, this is just what I wanted to talk about because there's just so much like talking, even in some of the groups that I am in, that we're all struggling with clarity and inauthenticity and like really trying to be that authentic version of ourselves that isn't like picture perfect, like we just want to be who we are and give you the divine information that is coming through us, so to speak. So and some of you are able to channel information because how was anything new ever built, right? I always say this to people who sit with me with human design, like how was anything new ever created if you weren't a vessel that created space so that that new information could drop in. Because other than that, you're just recycling information that everybody knows and trying to go, oh, well, I'll try it too. Because I know this works, so I'll try it too. Well, what about if you created something new altogether? And the only way to do that is to create space in your body and in your brain and trust that you can bring that information down into you and give it a whirl and see if it works. Your body will know if it works. Your body will find the right people you are to work with. So this is your best truth detector. Turn on your own personal energetic truth detector. This is the best gift you can give yourself. So it was the best gift I gave myself. And I love to be able to enact the button for anybody else who wants it. So I hope everyone has a great day. I'll try to be way more regular. I've got so much juicy, good stuff that has been going on. It's unbelievable. It's like I'm a completely different person living a completely different life. So I hope you enjoyed this and stay tuned for more. And if you want it, you know where to find me if you want to sit in human design and let's dig in. Let's see what's in your chart. Where are your monsters and what closet are they hiding in? We'll find out. Bye.